Hello, this is Joe Peters from MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the Hair Network on Single TV channels 250 and 251. We are super happy to have you here. Please remember to download the Single TV app in the respective iOS stores and Android devices. While you are downloading the app, make sure that you rate and leave a comment. The app is free. Singo TV is also available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV, Roku, and Roku Stick in all smart TVs. And if you are not following me yet in Instagram or Facebook, please go to Facebook or Instagram right now in your phone and find Joe Unicorn Coach. Follow me. I handle all my social media. And I am sharing you that with you because if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you have any doubts, and you need support in this marathon of motherhood, I want you to send me a DM. I want you to ask support. And then if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find an expert like Angela. So we together can support you in whatever you need to do. I will also love you to send me a comment after the program telling me what you like, what was a big insight that you had, and that way we can keep growing together. I am super excited to have Angela here. She is, I don't even know how to say that word in English, a compatriota. She's from Colombia too, from my home country. Angela Perez was born in Bogota, Colombia, was almost 45 years old. She's mom of Alejo since 2011 and the founder of lifefulness.sonrie um, since the pandemics. Parenting expert and conscious discipline. She had a magister in neuroeducation, multiple intelligence and mindfulness, passionate teacher, and education leader. Her constant work in progress towards her own personal growth and development allow her to support moms and families in general to be inspired to do the same. And Angela is going to be for all the English speaking people. I know that normally that name is pronounced Angela, but Angela is from Colombia, where I am from. So her name is Angela. So
Angela.
I'm gonna I'm gonna call her for her name, Angela. Angela is going to be talking with us about parenting and conscious discipline. Angela, welcome, welcome, welcome. I always ask my guests to share a phrase with me, and I love your phrase. Your phrase is from Mr. Gandhi, and is "Be the change you want to see in the world." With that phrase, please share a little bit with us about yourself, how you start working on this parenting conscious discipline, and why you choose that phrase.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you very much for having me this morning. It's a pleasure for me to share my experience and the knowledge that I have been acquiring over the past almost 25 years with your audience and your amazing community. Please forgive my English because I don't speak it on daily basis. So it's all coming back to me as far as I speak with you, but probably I'll have to think for a second or two before saying something. So please forgive me beforehand. Well, I started thinking about early education almost 2 decades or more ago. I started as a preschool teacher at private schools here in Colombia, and that's where I found this passion and this love that I have for children and for the adults that are part of the life of these children. Because I am completely convinced that the adults that are around the children are the ones who are making the change happen. So I selected that phrase and I have it like constantly on my mind to be the change I want to see in the world, because at some point I just realized I couldn't keep asking for everyone else and for the whole world to be that change and to behave in the way I expected and for things to happen the way I expected them to, if I was not able to put the hard work in myself. So so I began this journey and of self discovering, of self transformation. And in that journey, I found conscious discipline. And of course, it made a huge difference in the way I saw teaching, in the way I saw my students, in the way I saw the opportunities that I had each day with them in the classroom and in the school. And then, of course, when I became a mom since 2011, as you said, so with Alejo, um, it actually became a huge part of my life because it's something that I have to work on every single day. It's not something that I can just check, like your master's degree, that you just have your diploma and that's it. No, with conscious parenting and with respectful upbringing, you have to be in conscious, or at least trying to be aware almost at every time, and it is a constant process, and you need to be kind with yourself. That's also very important, because sometimes it gets really hard. It gets really hard to be conscious, to be aware, to do it the right way, mainly because there's no right way, and whatever you do and whichever way you choose to do anything, there are going to be eyes judging you at all times. Rather because you yelled at your child, or because you didn't, or because you were firmly establishing those limits, or because you didn't, or because you were too loving and too supportive, and or because you weren't. So every time they are judging you, they are observing you. People in the outside are always trying to understand what's happening in a situation in which they don't have enough information to judge or to understand. So that brings me to one of the three lines that I wanted to share with you today, and it is one that is very, very related to conscious discipline, and it's the power of love. Conscious discipline is a program, for me, as I see it, of self transformation, so that you can download all these inner processes into your child, right? And it has seven powers and seven skills. It is based on the brain model, but it has considered seven powers and seven skills with which you can approach your parenting daily life and your daily life towards being more successful, or at least to be near to that version of parent you want to be. And one of the powers that they describe is the power of love. And the power of love goes associated with a skill. And the skill is the skill of positive intent. So this morning, I wish for all of our viewers, and you as well, Joe, and me as well, to just take a moment, and breathe for a second, and just bring to your mind someone you love with all your heart, someone you just see that face, and you just can connect with your heart, and emotions starts coming up, and you just feel the love, and you just feel the love in your heart. You just feel your heart warming up. And when you connect with that skill, it has already lowered my heart vibrations and my palpitations and everything, and I'm more relaxed right now to speak to you. Whenever you connect with that emotion, you're able to start to see things differently. And we all have different moments. You were just telling us that you've had a difficult morning, and I'm sure, as you, thousands of viewers surely have too. So just take a moment to connect with that beautiful soul that you can see in your mind, that you can feel in your heart, and with those heart shaped glasses, try to connect with the world around you and try to see reality in a different way, in a different perspective, because it also takes a lot of energy to be reactive to the world, to react to everything that happens. It consumes a lot of energy too, and it's hard to be at all times, just like that. So I know that it is difficult to connect with our positive emotions sometimes, but as well as we give our energy to all these bad feelings that consume us and make us feel really bad, we may as well give it to positive intent and try to assign this positive intention to anything that comes our way, and that can give us a possibility to start looking through a different glass the reality that we have around ourselves.
I love that. And the first thing I want to tell you is that I tell everybody about my English too, right? And that is that um, we already are in the small population that is able to speak more than one language. So your English is very, very well. You don't have to apologize ever for speaking more than one language. I love everything that you are saying into that positivity. I love the breathing part, because part of that is how different will be our journey with our children if we are able to remember that, to breathe before we interact, to stop and pause. I want to start talking with you about something that is a journey for me, because I am a perfectionist in recovery. And that is part of what I do with my programs. I actually have a program that is a 6-week program, Have It All Without Doing It All, specifically for perfectionists, women
One.
that want to have it all. And one of the points that you talk about is being conscious doesn't mean being perfect. And before we go there, because I love to hear your input there, I would love for you to share a little bit more about what conscious parenting, conscious discipline is and what is not. Because I know some people, and I will tell you that I get so much trauma from the concept that I have from discipline growing up, that even the word create resistance to me. I'm like, ooh, no, I don't want
Yeah.
discipline. I want to do something else. So let's gonna start there into what really is to do conscious parenting and do conscious discipline, and then from there move into why being conscious doesn't mean that we need to be perfect.
Great, great. So I think I also had that kind of relationship to the word discipline. And I've come to remean and resignificate the word, because I've learned that discipline is also related to habits, and habits are related to behavior. And and when you relate discipline to behavior and to habits and to what's familiar to you, you're also talking about consciousness. So that's the way I put them together. When I speak about discipline and when I think about the word discipline, I am just letting go all the old knowledge I had about it, of being on a hard structure and just not being able to be yourself, and just cutting off your edges at all times to try to fit into some ultra small box where your spirit just feels trapped at all times. And I've turned it around to actually understand that when I talk about discipline and when I think about discipline, I am actually talking about what's familiar to me. And when I think about what's familiar to me, I want to think about the habits that make my behavior day by day. And that's where I can make a difference, because the habit is occurring in your present moment, and the present is the only thing you have to change. So when you're aware of that present moment and the habit that is creating that behavior on your present day, you have this amazing gift to actually change it and to actually um, uh, help yourself become much more connected with a much better version of yourself day by day. So conscious discipline is more about that for me. It is a personal transformation. It is a long journey, that once it begins never ends, and once it begins you cannot go back doing things the way you did before, because it gives you the possibility to think about your own personal habits and your own personal behavior, and what is it that just makes you go nuts, those pushing buttons that drive you crazy and that connect you immediately with the reactive response, with that CD-ROM we all have in our brains, that became the habit before we were conscious. So that's exactly where I would like to go. Our CD-ROM, everything that we have in our minds, and all the responses that we've reached out before, and the people we've met, and the experiences we've lived, they are connected with a neurological path in our brain. So as soon as that happens, that neurological path ignites, right? And commands us to react in a certain way. And that's discipline, and that's the old habit. So, conscious discipline, what's really inviting us to is to become aware of those pushing buttons, so that whenever they come around, we can, and this is like the main thing I would love your community to go with after this show. If you are able to strengthen the pause, just take a minute right there and just strengthen the pause, you start changing your neurological pathways, and you start creating new habits, therefore new behaviors, therefore a new discipline in your life that is going to connect you with the results that you really want. So, conscious discipline is mainly that, just become aware to strengthen the pause over the things that make you react with that CD-ROM we have in our minds, so that we can start choosing how we want to respond to whatever comes in our life, whatever life brings, instead of reacting everything that life brings,
I love that. And I think that one of the things that I thought when you were talking is that probably we will all having that misconnection between discipline and punishment, because when we are thinking about discipline for kids, then you have resistance. But I love how you put like discipline is not anything else but habits. It's about you reinforcing and creating the discipline to have specific habits and support it. I love that. Angela, let's talk a little bit about some tips and some ideas and hacks that you have to strengthen the pause, because
Yes,
especially for me,
especially
like,
for me, like,
oh, I'm hearing some echo. Okay, so especially for me, like people that are very go 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 go
go,
go.
go,
Yeah,
go.
it could be easy
Yeah,
to think about it, but what happened when we actually need to do the pause and we are actually finding that we are cutting ourselves after the fact, not before? How we can start reducing that space between saying, oh, I should pause but I didn't after the fact, versus eventually get caught
I did
before
it.
we react into, oh, I need to pause.
Great. So the first thing we need to do is that we need to start being aware of which are our pushing buttons. That's like the main and most important thing we have to do, because we go through life reacting to a million things, and we die of old age and we were never aware of which were those things that really, just cracked us up and just really made us go nuts. We just kept reacting and leaving and reacting and leaving, and we were never aware of those. So there was no possible way for us to anticipate our reaction, because we were never aware that those things were creating us such discomfort. So the main thing is for us to start, actually making a list, writing it down, trying to think in our everyday life, which are these situations, these scenes, these relationships, these people, these situations that really push our buttons. Not for judging them, not for avoiding them, not for changing those external situations, but just for us being aware that these kind of things are the ones which are making me go nuts. As soon as I start identifying them, I can start being aware of them and I can start anticipating myself towards something like this is about to happen. Maybe I'm in a traffic jam and I know that this can be a situation that can push my buttons. I don't know. Probably here in Colombia, we have like a zillion motorcycles riding alongside the cars, and that drives me crazy because it's really, you feel really insecure. So I now know that that is one of the situations that drives me crazy or pushes my buttons. So I'm aware of that, and I am trying to strengthen the pause between the motorcycle just crossing around by my car and myself getting all jumpy and frustrated. And if we are talking about our children, the same thing happens. We can identify which of those behaviors or which of those situations that happen with our children really really pushes our buttons. Not all of them, and it is not the same for mom and for dad, for example. It is not the same for mom and for grandparents. It is not the same for dad and uncles. Each of us, because of our history and personal experiences, react to these situations in a very personal way. So that is homework you can only do for yourself. So the first thing would be start identifying which are the situations that happen both in your daily life and with your children and in work and everywhere that you can say, this really drives me crazy and I can see myself reacting and going nuts whenever this happens, so that you now know that that is something that you need to focus your attention before it happens, so that you can strengthen the pause because you already know that you're going to react. So if, for example, if it drives you crazy that your children spill the glass of milk over the table, this is something that drives crazy a lot of moms, and I've seen it throughout the years. And it's like, but I've told you a million times, you need to be aware. What happened? Why weren't you aware of the glass of milk? I told you it was there. It was sitting on the table. Didn't you see it? And you just go crazy, and you engage yourself in such a battle for something that just happened, and you cannot change it because probably as your child is growing up and it's you know becoming more coordinate between his movements or her movements, it's going to happen still a few times or many times. So you can just be aware of that and know, okay, I'm going to serve the meal and I'm going to put the glass of milk, and it's probably that it's going to be spilled, but I'm going to know that this is something that pushes my buttons. So if it happens, I am going to remember to pause. I am going to remember to strengthen the pause because it's probably that it can happen. And I already know that it drives me crazy. Whenever your child sees a completely different reaction from yourself, like, I know it was hard for you to keep your glass of milk without spilling it. I know sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to coordinate our movements. And you were excited and you just went like that and just spilled the glass, spilled the milk or whatever. I know it is difficult and I am going to help you. Let's clean it up. So that really starts your brain pathways to actually change, to actually being modified, and your child is already learning a new, different way to respond towards something that usually was going to drive mom crazy. And that's where change begins. So you know that it drives you crazy, but you anticipate yourself, you anticipate your child, and you start to strengthening the pause, even for a while. Even if you strengthen your pause and you go like this, and then go nuts, like I told you like a million times, why did you spill it? Just strengthening that pause, even for an instant, that's being mindful. And that's living in plain consciousness. Even if it's for just 1 microsecond more than yesterday, there's progress. So you
And
don't have
I
to strengthen the pause to have the perfect answer, but just strengthen the pause for your brain to retrieve from accessing the CD-ROM information instantly.
Yeah. And I think that one of the things that is very important with this process of awareness and healing, on what you were saying of making that list of the things that trigger us, is being very honest with ourselves and understand two things, in my opinion. The first one is, if something is driving you crazy, is not your child, that your child is just having a reflection of something that is a wound in yourself. When you were growing up, y- there was so many triggers. So the first one is, it's never about them, it's always about us. So
Always about
if it's
uh-huh.
getting, I love to see those maps of this is driving me crazy, as this is the map that is showing me where I need to heal, where I need to work, where I need to go back and understand what are my memories about things like this. And then go from there, because part of that are those traumas that happen for us, that then, like you were saying, our kid is not doing anything but pushing the button. If the button was not activated, it's almost like I was telling my husband that it's almost like if you have a button that is connected to the light, if you push the button, the light's going to go on. But as soon as you disconnect the connection,
Exactly.
you can push a button
Exactly.
3 million times, the light is not going to come. So I think that that is
That's
what we
it.
need to see as moms, is if I am getting triggered to the point of react, what I need to solve is not them. I don't need to fix them. I need to fix first why I'm being triggered. So in the future, for example, the example of the glass of milk, I love it. If every time that happens I get triggered and the light turns on, is not fixing them and changing them and expect that a child be aware 100% of the time of their awareness, but understanding what is my trauma, where are my memories, what happened in my past that is triggering. So when I heal that, in the future when my child spills the milk, then I'm able to say, yeah, we make mistakes, everybody make mistakes, let's gonna fill it in. So that's the first one that come to my mind. The second one that I would love to hear your opinion on is, sometimes we are very unfair with our expectation of our children. Because when you were talking about this pill, this pill on the milk, I was actually thinking we will never react with an adult like we react with our children. So our children spill
Never.
the milk and we are like, oh my gosh, you are blah 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 blah, and I cannot believe, and look, I've been seeing people in restaurants spilling, and the immediate response of everybody that is another adult is helping. Oh, it's okay, don't
True.
worry. Help to clean. Help. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So we are able to have that compassion and that empathy and that understanding with another adult, but we keep our children in this expectation of like, you need to almost be perfect. So let's gonna talk a little bit about that hypocrisy, or that difference that happen on how a lot of times, especially when we are talking about discipline, we treat our children like we will never treat another adult.
An adult. That's so true. And it has to do with power struggles, because you have these wounds from your childhood and from your upbringing or from wherever and from your experiences. And let me be clear on that. That's not because your mom and dad we're not good moms and dads. It's just because of the perception you had of different experiences as you were growing up. Um, and somehow it made an impression. And now it is somehow something that hurts. So whenever I get engaged with a child in a power struggle, I know that I can empower myself, in front of that child. And it doesn't happen the same way with an adult because I'm like, okay, I'm not going to fight with you, even if I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how can he be so stupid? He just spilled the glass of milk. Oh, I cannot believe this. Your response is like, no, don't worry, it's okay. Mistakes happen all the times. Let's just clean up, because you're not going to enter into that power struggle with the adult because you feel like you don't have the strength or the need to fight with them. But with the child, it's like your own child reacting to that. So it's like they were harsh on me when this happened to me when I was a child. So this is my opportunity to be hard on someone else because this happens. So it's my way of, amending, and it's my way of healing properly that wound that I have. So it's amazing, but it happens all the time. Whenever you are out of time, you know it's like, we need to go, and you start yelling at your children, you need to be ready, but I told you, but what's going on, let's go, and you just, actually, if it's a baby, you just grab your baby and run off because you can handle it. The reason is that you empower yourself in that way just because you can, and that's scary. I mean, that's like, oh my God, able, I'm able. This lives within me. And if I can empower myself, oh my God, it's probable that I'm able to do it, and I'll just grab my child, or I'll just yell at my child just because I can. And I will never do that with an adult because I cannot, you know, grab my husband and place him into the car and drive to my parents' house. That just is not physically possible. So I just disengage myself from it, from that possibility, and it doesn't happen. And my brain needs to find the answers to manage the situation because it's not with power that I'm going to be able to handle it. When we feel differently, and that's our CD-ROM, just answering for us. So that's where consciousness and being aware become so very important and so very meaningful, because even if I know that I can grab my child and just leave, even if I know that I can just get mad and yell at my child because I'm the adult and I am bigger, I am choosing not to. I am choosing to respect him or her in such a way that I am making my brain find new alternatives and new responses and new answers to help my child cooperate and help him understand the situation and teach him how to willingly be a part of the solution. So it is crazy, but the the answer is we behave that way with our children just because we can.
I love that.
That's it.
And I think that that is a phrase that I'm being preparing for my newsletter and my social media, and is I had it attached to my breastfeeding journey too, and it says, just because you can doesn't mean that you have to. And then I think that that's
Exactly.
beautiful. And say, like, just because I can do that with my child doesn't mean that I have to. Doesn't mean that I need to exercise that process. Um, and Angela,
Exactly.
one thing there that is going to go into the next point is, as we start changing the way that things were handling with us, I was actually talking with a coach this week, and I was talking about how some of my memories growing up was not being feeling safe to express my feelings, because if I was upset or crying, then my dad feedback was one or two things. One, you are abusing your power because you are manipulating me with your tears, so you are abusing your power. And that was always something that I was very intriguing to me when, and I remember him telling me that I'm feeling so confused about it. But then the other one was, if I was crying, then there was the very common one in Colombia of, if you keep crying, I will give you something to cry about, meaning your feelings are not valid, your fears are not valid. The only reason valid for you to cry is being physically hurt, and then I am going to physically abuse you,
Hurt
hurt
you,
you physically with discipline.
so that
um,
you have a reason to cry.
so you have a valid reason to cry. So as we start trying to clean that path of all those things that we grow up with and start doing something different with our kids, the reality is, one of my parenting coaches, Ana Maria, says the question is not if you make a rupture, is when you do the rupture. And then the part is how we can work on that parenting consciousness and be aware that when we do that parenting rupture, when we go back into those patterns that we grow up with, when we go back into maybe yelling, when we go back to maybe even sometimes getting even physical when we don't want or don't agree with doing that, how we can, in two steps, first repair with our kids and explain what happened and that what is not okay, and then how we can be kind with ourselves and not feel that guilty. Because I was actually thinking, I was in a group mom yesterday, and one of the moms was saying that she is approaching conscious parenting, conscious discipline. So, like me and a lot of moms on this generation, is not aligned with physical punishment or physical discipline. And then she was saying that they were with their mom, and that this is something also very common. Her mom was having a glass of water in not a very smart place, and her 1 year old
Mhm.
moved around and the glass spilled. And then what happened was the mom, so the grandma, hit the girl. And then the mom says, "Oh, I froze because it's my mom. I froze. I took my daughter away and went away with my daughter, but I froze. I didn't say anything to my baby." So I was reminded that there is a quote from Glennon Doyle that says, if you have to choose between being a good mom or being a good daughter, always choose to be a good mom. Because that is something else that happened for us, is when we have that baggage from our parents and then get a moment like that where it's shocking with how we want to be parents. In that moment we need to make a choice, and the choice is hard because it's standing up to our parents and say, no, that is not okay. I don't care how you think that was okay with me, that is not okay, and stop. So we can be a good parent for our kids, or like this mom, just completely freeze and let it happen. So I want to do those two things as we close the program. How we can repair when things like that happen, when we get into those positions where we are not able to be conscious and we go back to our traumas. And then how, when that happens, we can still be kind with ourselves and not get into that cycle of guilt and shame and trying to be perfect, and actually understand that it's a journey for us to unlearn what we learned growing up.
So true, Joe. I mean, and it has to do with that other line of conversation that I wanted to include in the program, that it's how being conscious doesn't mean to be perfect. So it's been really hard on us, moms from the latest, like the past decade or so, um, because there's a lot of information on how to do things, how to properly do things. So we have social media and tips and experts all around, and everybody knows, and everybody's telling you how to do it. And somehow you start also like shutting yourself from everything that's within yourself to become a part of everything that is around yourself, and you somehow lose yourself in the way. And that mommy instinct is also very, very precious, like being in touch with yourself and how you want to do things. So the first, to answer your questions, to be able to repair is a very, very consciousness decision. I mean, it's all about consciousness and being aware. You cannot repair that you didn't know was broken. You cannot repair that you didn't know you broke. You cannot repair that you don't know has to be repaired. So the first thing you need to know is that in order to repair, you need to face the fact that something was done in a way that you would have hoped you would have done differently. And that needs awareness from your part. So whenever you react, and that's because our CD-ROM is, I mean, whenever we are about 35 years old, we have completely structured and impressed our brain pathways towards our reactions to situations around ourselves. And overcoming 35, 40, 45 years of doing things the same way, it's not an easy task. So you need to actually start understanding that you need to work in yourself, that you need to start knowing yourself, that you need to start that inner path to acknowledge who you really are, and who can you truly be in order to become nearer to your best version. So in that process, you may learn that there are some things that you'd rather be different and that you can repair. But first of all, you need to start that journey. So if you're already on that journey and you can acknowledge yourself and say, oh no, I reacted in a way that I didn't want to, and I did these things in a way that I didn't want to, I'm going to repair it because I know it was wrong, and I wish it had been different. In conscious discipline, they have a beautiful tool that is called the time machine, and you can use it. You can use it anytime you want to, and it's a beautiful moment. First of all, you need to be willing, right? So to be willing, you need to acknowledge that something happened in a way that you wished had been different. And you need to connect with that other person with which you reacted in that unwanted way. It can be your child or anyone, because that compassion and that kindness that you want to give to your child, you need to give it to yourself first. And whenever you become kind and whenever you become compassionate, that's just the way you are. You are not just kind to your child, but you're a horrible person to your mother, or you're a compassionate person with your um, fellow professional teammates, but you are a horrible person in your family, because that's not that's not the way it goes. Whenever you start harvesting kindness and compassion in your heart and in your life, then you're able to freely give it out to anyone that comes around in your life. So it's not just about your children, it's mainly about yourself. So you are willing to acknowledge that something went wrong. You address this person with which things didn't go the way you wanted to. It can be your child or not. And then you go like, I know I answered this or that way. I wished I would have answered differently, but I made a mistake. People make mistakes. and I don't feel good about it. And I would love to ask for your forgiveness, or tell you I'm sorry because I did it the wrong way. It wasn't supposed to go that way, and I'm sorry. I hurt your feelings, and I know that you're not feeling good. I am not feeling good either. I'm sorry. Are you willing to forgive me? Are you willing to see the sorriness in my soul? And if that other person is willing to, well, it's a beautiful moment. And if it's not, it's also a beautiful moment, because you need to acknowledge your actions and say, okay, so this was really hard for this person. I'm going to breathe for me, for myself, and for them. And I am going to give space, and I'm going to try later. Would you be able to try with me later, towards letting me let you know how sorry I am for how things went? And just you know be the owner of your actions, and whatever situation outcomes, with kindness and with compassion and genuine, and with authenticity, um
One thing that
so
I
that would
love,
be.
one thing that I love for us to start closing the program is that you are being very clear into my responsibility is being aware and understand when I react bad. And then my responsibility is also ask for that forgiveness and say, I'm sorry. I love how you say it because that is something that sometimes we tend to trip our kids into shame and guilt because they have to. No, your child doesn't have to forgive you. And then that is part of the journey of healing and learning that it is okay if your child is so upset that says, no, I don't want to forgive you. You really hurt me. And that is part of you as a parent to breathe and say, it is okay. I understand. And then don't make that just because I say sorry then automatically you need to be okay with it, because the other thing that
Exactly.
that create people that grow up and are in physical abusive relationships, and as soon as the other partner says I'm sorry, then everything is okay. No,
Yeah, yeah.
is respecting that part. I love our conversation, Angela. Before we close, we have a little like 2 minutes. Why we don't just share one brief advice for the moms that are hearing us into this journey of conscious discipline, and then share with us how they can connect with you if they want to learn a little bit more about you.
Okay, well, I've loved this time too. It's always little time when you talk about what you love and what is a passion for you in life. So, well, but thank you anyway for having me. I would say, and I started with it at the beginning because I think this is really like the key for conscious discipline and for personal transformation. Just be aware of what triggers you and strengthen the pause. These triggers are going to be around yourself and in your life forever. They are never going to go away. They are never going to melt or disappear. They are going to still be a part of your life. So just start being aware of them. Just start identifying them. Even make a list if you have to. And it can be a list that grows. And it doesn't matter, but just identify them and be aware, so that whenever you sense something like that, or something in your list is going to happen, you just strengthen your pause. And that's what's going to make the whole difference in your life, in every aspect, and with anyone that is related, or with which you have a relationship. Strengthen the pause, even if it's for just a second. I mean, if you strengthen your pause and then you react like you used to, it's a game. You did it. Good for you. Just
Thank you
strengthen
so
your pause.
Thank you so much, Angela, for that amazing message. Please remember that this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, and download it and leave it. Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Let's see what happened with our TV producer. I think that you
Or
can
maybe
just
we can just
leave.
stay a little longer.
Yeah. No, they have to be at 50. I think that he has to cut this. Just you can just click leave, and we can just leave here.
Okay, great. Bye,
Bye
Joe.
bye. Thank
Kisses.
you.